Welcome into Sportsmemo's betting podcast for March 14th, Thursday. Alongside Teddy Covers, I am Drew Martin. We're talking NBA and college basketball for the Thursday night card. Without further ado, Mr. Teddy Covers. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hey, Drew. How are you today, buddy?
I'm doing good. Busy sports betting day. Teddy, March Madness is certainly here. You can feel it. The TV is rolling, bunch of games on. So don't want to have too long of a podcast because we know people are watching the games. But real quick before we start breaking it down, man, 4-0 last night, 18-7 last 25 in the NBA. Your March has been really hot as well. College basketball doing good. So anything you want to get off your chest before we start breaking down these games?
Well, look, I mean, this is one of the busiest betting weeks of the year. I think I do have an edge at this time for a couple of reasons. One, experience matters in conference tournaments. And the fact that this is something I've focused on for many years and made money on with many years, I love these conference tournaments. I expect to make money every year. And guess what? You're not going to sleep a whole lot. It's going to be a little bit hectic. But it's a time of year that if you use some tried and true strategies, you find ways to make money. I got lucky last night with the big ticket. I'll tell you, the 5%er on Illinois went into OT before the line I covered. We got there. The other three a little bit easier a night ago. But it's one of my favorite times of year. This weekend, today, tomorrow, it might be the two best betting days of the entire year. So hopefully you were on board last night. If you're not, hopefully you get on board. I expect continued success and profits over the next, long term, but obviously over the next few days. This is a really good time of year for me.
Yeah, really good time of year to be a sports bettor, and Teddy Covers service is highly recommended for sure. We're going to talk some 7 o'clock games tonight in the college basketball ranks. Also some later games going on, Texas, Kansas, and Syracuse, Duke. And then we're going to hit the NBA games so everybody can follow along here, Teddy. Let's start off 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, 685, 686. St. John's Marquette. Looks like 148.5 the total, with Marquette laying 3.5 now. Been juiced up a little bit. They opened 2, now 3.5, Teddy. What are you thinking about this market move?
This is what I think about market moves in March in conference tournaments, especially in games that are short line games, lying fairly close to pick 'em. There's no way I'm backing the favorite after the favorite's been bet up. Even from 2 to 3.5, in my mind, that is too much. If you like Marquette, you had your chance. Maybe you'll see it again before tip-off. But the difference between a -2 and a -3.5 in a conference tournament game is enormous, especially when you expect to be close like this one. It's not like the Johnnies can't play with the Golden Eagles. They beat them twice in the regular season. They handed Marquette their first home loss of the season and blew them out at Carnesecca Arena. Back in January, they beat them by 20. And the issue for Marquette in all those games, both those games, was the same. They turned the ball over, which is something that St. John's does, and which is something that Marquette does. And I'll tell you what, this Golden Eagles team, they remind me a little bit of Oklahoma last year. This is why. Oklahoma last year was Trae Young and 4 guys standing around watching Trae Young. And Trae Young was brilliant, and then Trae Young wore down as the season progressed, and the other guys couldn't lift their level of play, and Oklahoma was a point spread disaster down the stretch. So this year, what do we have? We have Marcus Howard, who was a monster, who's been as good as any player in college basketball this year. But his usage rate through the roof, his production down the stretch, down. Marquette slumping down the stretch because their best player isn't fresh anymore. Yeah, they've had time to rest and recuperate. I don't trust Marquette moving forward. I think their best basketball might already be behind them.
Yeah, it's a great analogy, comparing them to Oklahoma. I'm seeing it now that you said that. I didn't really think of it that way at this time. But, towards the end of the year, might be a fade candidate even into the March Madness tournament. Teddy, another 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific tip here in the Big Ten. Penn State, Minnesota in the Big Ten tournament. Penn State, the Nittany Lions laying 3. Looks like a total of 135.5 right now.
Yeah, and this is another one where the money's been bet on the favorite, even though Minnesota, in theory, is the bubble team. I don't know how real that is for the Gophers. They certainly didn't play well down the stretch, but a Penn State team that spent the first half of the Big Ten campaign just finding ways to lose close games like this one over and over and over again. Well, they came on like a freight train once they finally learned how, figured out how to win some of those close games. and they were a point spread behemoth for much of February and into March, which leaves Penn State with a betting bandwagon that Minnesota doesn't have, which means you're laying 3 with Penn State today instead of laying 2 or 1.5 or 1. And again, these, you say, oh, it's just a point. It doesn't matter. In these short line games in conference tournaments where it's going to come down to a possession or two in the last couple of minutes, man, getting the best of the number at this time of the year is so key. I leaned Nittany Lions. I missed the number. I didn't play it. And that's the only way I could play it. I do not trust the Golden Gophers on a neutral floor. I don't trust the Golden Gophers on any floor necessarily. But especially with the must-win situation, the money coming on the other side, it tells you all you need to know about Penn State right now being the better of these two teams despite their inferior record.
Great breakdown, Teddy. And guys, we got a coupon code here for the podcast, Teddy69. That's Teddy69 at checkout for $50 off his 7-day all-access package. That will give you all of his conference tournament plays, like he was talking about. Great time of year to be betting conference tournament action. Arguably best time of year for any sport right now. It's $50 off his 7-day all-access at sportsmemo.com using coupon code Teddy69 at checkout. It will give you college basketball, NBA, any play that Teddy is releasing using coupon code Teddy69 at checkout for his 7-day all-access package. Teddy, 6:30 Pacific tip here, 9:30 Eastern, 7-11, 7-12, Syracuse, Duke. This game on ESPN. Should be a lot of tickets written here, Teddy. Big matchup, kind of a get-back game of sorts, a later matchup. 144 the total. Looks like 11.5. Some shops going to 12 right now. That's the Dukies laying in the ACC tournament.
Yeah, and in my mind, this is a really hard game to bet because we know Zion's going to play. We don't know how much he's going to play. And that is a huge impact. Obviously, we're talking about the best player in college basketball, or one of the best players in college basketball this season, a guy who can single-handedly take over a game, and a guy who could play for 10 or 15 minutes and get his feet wet, or a guy who could play for 30-plus minutes and be an impact player in this ballgame. We don't know. Coach K hasn't said. I don't think he knows, which creates an extra level of uncertainty here. Coach K, we have a reset button. If Zion's healthy, we have a chance. He's not just talking about the ACC tournament. He's talking also about the big dance coming next week. Now, Williamson's practiced all week, and obviously Syracuse played last night, which leaves them anything but fresh against the Blue Devils this evening. It's not like the Orange have anything resembling a deep rotation at this stage of the campaign. You look at the box score from last night, you'll see very clearly, Syracuse, let's see, Hughes went 40, Boeheim went 36, Howard went 37, and, essentially very little off the bench on the second of back-to-backs against a team like Duke. You certainly worry about that, but from a Blue Devil standpoint this evening, you're paying a full price for Zion being healthy again, but you don't know for sure that he's 100% healthy. All that being said, I don't want the dog in this game. Duke may well come out and make a statement this evening. Wouldn't shock me in the slightest.
Yeah, you're right. Bring up some great points there, Teddy. I mean, everybody's going to concentrate on Duke and Zion. How many minutes is he going to play? I would actually probably take the under if you gave me 25 minutes, anything like that. I'd probably take the under. I think they're going to start him off slow here. But on the other side, I mean, Syracuse, they're a team that's in the tournament. They already won a game. I don't know. I like you just said, a lot of people playing a lot of minutes. I could see him kind of getting here in the second half and just kind of getting outmuscled, outplayed by the more talented Duke team in the stretch. And this 11.5 might look short towards the end. Is that something you could see happening here in the second half?
Yeah, this is a game I would be much more interested in live betting than it would be in pre-tip-off betting. Let's see how Zion looks. Let's see how long he's out there for, as opposed to just sort of wondering. But the other issue that you brought up there is that if Syracuse runs out of gas here, we could see a big Duke run in the second half. Might be a real good opportunity for live betting if that's the case. Of course, we've seen some pretty gritty Syracuse teams in conference tournaments over the years. I don't know if this is going to be one of them, but We can't say that we haven't seen that before. Remember when Syracuse played that 7 overtime game and they came back the next day and won the title? I mean, that's what Boeheim takes this tournament very, very seriously every year. And so does Coach K, for that matter.
Teddy, we got one college basketball game left. You got a free play up on it at sportsmemo.com. It's Texas, Kansas. So if you want in-depth reading analysis, check out sportsmemo.com for Teddy's free play. But Teddy, real quick, any quick thoughts here? Texas, Kansas, 137.5 the total. Looks like Kansas, the Jayhawks, 2.5.
Yeah, and I mean, we're starting to see some threes and 3.5s out there on Kansas. I would expect this line will move towards Kansas. It's the line, I think, of all the lines on the betting board today, this is the one that stood out the most. And saying, oh my, they're not giving Kansas a whole lot of respect with this number, which means we know there's going to be Jayhawks money. There's going to be public Jayhawks money. We've already seen some wise guy Jayhawks money. Kansas didn't play particularly well away from home, and I know they're going to have the home court edge, the crowd edge at the Sprint Center in KC today, be loaded with Jayhawks fans. But, Texas beat them soundly when they played last month. The January meeting was decided by a single basket in Lawrence. And Kansas, at no point this season, have been looking at Kansas and saying, yeah, this team's ready. Yeah, this team's about to make a run. Wow, Self's got them going right now. When you lose, not one, they lost 2 NBA guys. And the Gerald Vick, he left the program early, and then Azubuike got hurt. And again, both these days, this has been going on for a while. It's nothing new, but it's left the Jayhawks not the team people necessarily thought they were. Texas fighting for their lives. I wouldn't be surprised if they give Kansas a battle tonight. You can read my full analysis right now at sportsmemo.com, as Drew mentioned, a free play posted recommending a bet on Texas this evening, but there's no rush to get to the betting window with that one.
Great breakdowns of the college basketball games tonight, Teddy. We got 2 NBA games want to quickly go through. And, guys, remember the coupon code TEDDY, TEDDY, 69 at checkout for $50 off his 7-day all-access service at sportsmemo.com. Gives you college basketball, NBA, any play releases. Teddy 69 at checkout. 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific tip here. LA Lakers at the Toronto Raptors. 231.5 the total, Teddy. Looks like the Raptors laying 9 at home.
Yeah, I mean, don't look now. Lakers haven't given up yet. They've rallied back to blow out the Bulls the other night after a rough start to that ball game. And boy, I think they needed to get out of town. After a pretty dismal homestand. LeBron James, quote, "We have an opportunity. We go into Chicago our next game. We go into Detroit, who's a playoff team. We go into Milwaukee at the end of the trip. All playoff teams, all good teams. Those games will be like playoff games if we want them to be." That's an interesting quote. This is an interesting quote, too, coming from Nick Nurse, the Raptors head coach. After the bad loss they suffered at Cleveland on Monday, they got blown out in that ballgame, a 25-point defeat. They lost Serge Ibaka, 3-game suspension after his altercation in that contest. And a bunch of guys got banged up. Kyle Lowry twisted his ankle. Danny Green hurt his ankle. Pascal Siakam, who's been a dynamite for them, or Siakam, I should say, hurt his neck. Nick Nurse, quote, "We had a lot of bumps and bruises on Monday. It was a rough one. Couple of ankle tweaks, couple of hand injuries, Pascal's shoulder injury. We'll see how it goes." Those are concerning injuries for me when you talk about a team in this point spread range against an opponent that, say what you want about how poorly the Lakers have played. They have the potential to compete even in games like this one, to be Lakers or pass for this better if I got involved tonight.
And Teddy, just ballpark figure, how many games are left of the NBA season?
Like 15-ish?
Okay, so they're still alive, but it's a long shot still.
They're not alive.
Okay,
they'd have to win. They probably have to win 13 games out of the last 15, and given their schedule, that's not happening. Let me see. Lakers actually 31. Yeah, they have exactly 15 games left.
Okay. Dang it!
I mean, they're mathematically live, but it's not looking good.
My plus 900 on Lakers making the playoffs is definitely not looking good. But we got one more game here, Teddy. 5-6-9.
I'll trade you. I got a minus 110 on that prop in my pocket, so at least you got a good number.
Yeah, but We're likely gonna lose one unit. Correct. Either way.
It makes no difference if you have minus 110 or plus 900 if they both lose.
Well, we got 10:30 Eastern tip, get back game, degenerate special 7:30 Pacific tip. Dallas, Denver here, Teddy 220.5, and it looks like the Nuggets laying 11.5 in the Mile High City.
Look, I've been fading Dallas pretty consistently and pretty regularly since really just before the All-Star break when they traded away 4 of their 5 starters for a team. I mean, the Mavs were such moneymakers. They were moneymakers in every role. Road dogs, home chalk. They weren't road chalk very often, but you could lay points to them. You could take double digits. There was 0 bad areas for Dallas ATS through the first 45 or 50 games of the campaign. And then you trade away 4 of your 5 starters. You clearly play for the future. And the effort's been there. Luka's not right. He's banged up. He tweaked his ankle the other night. He only scored 12 points in that ballgame. Missed shot after shot after shot. Open looks, the shots he normally makes. After the game, Rick Carlisle's like, yeah, I probably played him too many minutes. I don't want Dallas. But the point spread here is where it's supposed to be. With Denver in the 11.5 point range, and a Nuggets team that they haven't played their best basketball in recent weeks. Not even maybe. And Dallas is kind of a win and survive and advance and move on type of game for Denver. But one thing we have, this has been a strong home court for the Nuggets. Dallas hasn't laid down at all. The effort's there. So at 11.5, Denver's the much better team, but I'm a little bit priced out of this matchup. I love to fade the Mavericks, but not in this double-digit dog point spread range. Even against a hot team like the Nuggets.
Teddy, great breakdowns, both college and NBA. Guys, check out Teddy Covers Service. We got the special on his 7-day all-access. Teddy69 at checkout will give you his 7-day all-access for $50 off. So it's a great deal there with his 7-day all-access. Every sport that he releases you will get. He's 19-9, 68% all sports in March. Hot in the NBA since February 12th, hitting 72% off a 4-0 night last night. Check out Teddy Covers Service, both college basketball and the NBA. Teddy, thanks for the time. Guys, enjoy watching the games today. Full slate of games. We'll be back tomorrow talking with Robbie Vino, some more college basketball betting. So best of luck with your bets.